featuring Will Gavin and Master Tesfatian.
And a squad of big-name contributors.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
Well, hello and welcome to the S Word, sponsored by Calci. I'm Will Gavin. I'm live in London. Master Tesfatian has caught a red eye from Los Angeles to Atlanta. That's how disgusted he was. Sorry, from Seattle to Atlanta. That's how disgusted he was at what he saw at Lumen Field or the Seattle Tacoma Stadium or whatever it is that they're calling it for this World Cup, as the USMNT have crashed out. All of the co-hosts are out of the tournament at the round of 16 mark.
I'm about to crash out, Will.
4-1. I'm looking forward to it in a loving way, in a way of, you're my friend and I appreciate you and I respect you. I am looking forward to what you have to say about this performance. Last night going down 4-1 to a Belgium side who've just come to life in their last 100 minutes or so of football. We're also going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, left in tears after Portugal departed the competition against a Spain side who continue to underwhelm going forward, but defensively might be the very best team at the 2026 World Cup. Is that enough to carry them through? And we have got a superstar lineup of guests today joining us. Zito Madu will join us. Brad Friedal will join us. We'll get the Portuguese perspective. We'll get the Belgian perspective. It's all coming up for you here on the S Word, sponsored by Calci.
I'm hyperbole metal if you want.
I think maybe do put it on. It might make you feel better about yourself. Just like a little comfort blanket around your neck for the show today. Yes, the USMNT are out of the World Cup after it turned out they were a bit of a layup for Belgium.
Fabian Ruiz plays it forward. Here's the chance, and there's the goal for Spain from Mikel Merino. And that is it. Spain march on, but it's all over for Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal.
The emotions are beginning to hit Cristiano Ronaldo, and now we see tears in his eyes as he goes over to the Portugal fans and begins to applaud them. Yeah, he looks down to his boots and he's trying to choke the tears back, but in reality they are beginning to come as it hits him, the legacy that he's had as a Portugal player.
It's Lukaku winning it in the penalty area. USA again coughing up possession, and Romelu Lukaku, super sub again, found the bottom corner. It's the end of the American dream. The co-hosts are out, and it's Belgium who go through to the quarterfinals to face Spain.
That is how it sounded last night, live on talkSPORT. Spain, their late winner for Mikel Merino, putting them through to the next stage of the World Cup. They will meet Belgium in the quarterfinals, not the USMNT, after a 4-1 defeat up in the Pacific Northwest saw the US crash out of their own tournament. Come on then, Master. The floor is yours, sir. You were there in Seattle Tacoma yesterday. You experienced this live and in person. How did it go from the highs of the last four games to the lows of yesterday?
This one was tough. This one was tough to swallow. Due to the simple fact that all of my biggest fears with this team all transpired within the first 10 minutes of this match. All the sentiments of this generation of the U.S. men's national team being soft and trepidatious and making mental errors and killing themselves and not giving it their all for the crest. You saw that unfold within the first 10-15 minutes. How slow they looked, how lack of intensity they had, the inability to we've seen the pressing, we've seen the aggressiveness all tournament long. And in that first 10, 15 minutes, there's none of that. There's no intensity. There's no belief. There's no understanding of what is at stake. At least the performance did not dictate that or show that. And I think that was the most difficult thing to swallow. And you're going through the first 15 minutes of my own mind, and I'm just completely stunned at the fact that this team, knowing everything that's on the line, in the best venue you could possibly ask for, to have a home crowd with that home advantage behind you, galvanizing you, ready to go from the jump of this match, and you're giving them absolutely nothing to get behind, and you concede on an early goal. The concerns I had with Matt Freese going into this tournament unfortunately unfolded in the most embarrassing way possible with the third goal that was conceded. That was an absolute backbreaker. The concerns I had of 38-year-old Tim Ream starting for this team at center back, unfortunately, it played a huge role in the 2 goals that they conceded as well. And Pochettino was just left without having any sort of answers for it. And I don't even know if I can really blame him for this. At a certain point, the energy, the intensity, that's on the players. And the players didn't show up. And that for me is just hard. That's hard to accept. That as great as this tournament has been to this point, that this is the way it ends. It is a very difficult pill to swallow.
Yeah, Matt Freese, the irony that you're there so close to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Atlanta Falcons, going full Young Wei Koo, kicking the ground on that goal. And listen, the first and third goals, both of them are goals that simply can't happen at this sort of level.
The second one too.
Like, arguably the second one too, Tim Ream beaten in the air when he really shouldn't be, but you just... Like, it transcends technical analysis. It transcends tactical studies. You know, Rudy Garcia came out and put on a bit of a masterclass in the first half, threw some real surprises at the USMNT. I think arguably we're the first team to really have both the quality and also the tactical nous to set up, to nullify what the USMNT do well and to be able to exploit what maybe they don't do so well. But for all of that to happen, to give up those goals in what is the biggest game of these players' lives, like the level of disappointment, even at 2-1, where you've conceded so quickly after scoring the first, and then you've had half time to reset. Pochettino's looked like he's made some changes. You're not creating chances necessarily, but you're getting a bit more possession, a bit more field position. You are getting those opportunities are starting to open up, and then, I mean, you use the phrase, right, backbreaker. Just absolutely killer goal to concede.
I'm still trying to understand what he was thinking, because at a certain point he's coming out and he's coming out of the box, and again, great instincts coming out of the box. I'm thinking, clear this thing, either header it out of bounds or just kick it as far as you can. He takes a cheeky touch, and all of a sudden he thinks he's the white Vizinha all of a sudden. And at that point, again, mission accomplished. Just clear the ball. Clear the ball. Clear the ball. That's all you have to do. Clear the ball. And again, the cheekiness continued, and maybe the confidence became irrational, as Americans tend to be sometimes, and it led to the third goal. Like that was the true sentiment that we were getting our asses handed to us, unfortunately, and there was no way around it. Belgium kicked our asses. They kicked our asses, and we did not do anything. This was a clear definition. This is quintessential belt to ass moment that the United States men's national team just dealt with, and again, part of that too was just killing themselves. There was the margin for error was small as it was. And you were not going to beat a team in the round of 16 to try and advance in the quarterfinals doing just dumb things like that. You just are not. I don't care who you are.
Listen, it means the USMNT are now out at the round of 16 for its 4th successive World Cup. Obviously missed out in 2018 entirely, but 4 in a row that this is the stage that the USMNT get to. You've got over that hump of winning a knockout stage game. That's the first one since 2022. But 11 shots allowed in the first half compared with 10 shots in total in their first halves in the 4 previous games. What are you putting it down to yesterday? Were you outclassed by just coming up against an opposition for the first time in this tournament, truly had some ability and, you know, didn't really turn up to play football themselves until the last 10 minutes of their game with Senegal, but really set up in this game so much better than we've seen them do at any other stage in this tournament? But how much are you putting on the players? How much are you putting on mentality? How much are you putting on how Poch sets them up?
The players didn't show up. Well, it's very obvious. The players didn't show up. The players didn't show up. They didn't show up with the same fight. They didn't show up with the same hunger that I've seen time and time again with all the matches that I've seen from this U.S. men's national team throughout this tournament and being in person. They didn't show up for this fight. They didn't. For whatever reason that is, whether it was the belief of coming back to Seattle after that amazing experience that I was there as well for USA Australia, knowing you were going to have that crowd behind you, whether it was Balogun's red card being delayed and he was being available, the overwhelming belief that the fans had that they were going to get this one over the line, overcoming what happened in 2014, losing to Belgium, this Belgium side when they were at the peak of this golden generation, and viewing them now as, in the twilights of this generation. There was a level of pretentiousness, I feel like, that everyone just assumed that we were going to advance. And I think that trickled down to the players, and they just decided not to show up and that this thing would be handed to them. And they got humbled very, very quickly. And these were the performances leading up to this World Cup that created the pessimism that American fans that follow this team had, because they were due for this. And we thought we had worked through this through the group stage, even beating Bosnia Herzegovina, going down a man and not having the most perfect game plan for that, and things not going your way, being able to handle that. They got punched in the mouth first in this match. And even though they responded, it was the continuation of being behind the 8 ball from this team, and they could never dig themselves out of that early hole of just not being ready for this match as soon as that whistle blew. And that is something that, again, as much as I've enjoyed this run, I've enjoyed this tournament, we're gonna smash rating records, I'm sure, once again, from the viewership that existed for USA Belgium. But I am left with the same taste in my mouth that unfortunately I am time and time again as a U.S. men's national team fan, where this is always where the bus stops.
I want to talk a bit about the mentality, and I want to talk a bit about the Balogun situation as well. But just on that point you raised about the viewership, right? Incredible numbers seen for the Bosnia-Herzegovina game. We're going to find out the numbers today from Fox, I'm sure.
It'll shatter records. This one will be unbelievable. Yeah. This is going to shatter whatever records still exist. This is going to set the new barometer in terms of what is the biggest viewership rating for soccer in America, without question.
Because I think when you look at what's been achieved in this tournament overall, we came into this tournament saying if the USA win a knockout game in this tournament, already you consider that a level of success. Quarterfinals was what we were talking about as like an ideal situation to really galvanise. You weren't that far off getting there, right? Everything transpired to go into this game where it did not set up well, and we saw the result on the field. I think my feeling on it, and what I want to ask you about, I got really annoyed last night going and seeing the reaction from on this show the other day. We were sitting here talking about how actually it's been really positive to see the mainstream members of the media properly embrace the World Cup. People who I may not be a huge fan of properly go out there and enjoy this tournament, and then to go online and see the reactions from, I mean, not that I like the man in any way, shape or form, but like Dave Portnoy ripping up his USA MNT jersey and throwing it away. Pat McAfee saying, soccer was fun while it lasted on Twitter last night. Like, this is a tournament where we should be celebrating where the position of football is in that country now, because it's so clearly in such a stronger position to what it was. Go back to the previous tournament 32 years ago, but even 10 years ago, like it is growing and growing and growing. And yet the reactions I saw last night made me go, is this going to put some people off that the biggest audience of all is going to have come with the worst performance we've seen from them?
And truth be told, it probably will. I'm not going to lie with you. It probably will. But I don't think that should overlook the amount of fans that are going to grow as a result of this. When you look at the numbers of particularly teenagers that have been watching this World Cup and how significant that has been compared to other major events like the Olympics, I think that's kind of where we are looking at. I do not care about the Dave Portnoys. I do not care about the Pat McAfees, the Nick Wrights, all of these people that jumped on. Like, by all means, it was great to have them on. But they're not the barometer for soccer in this country. Because if they were, they would have known this World Cup was coming 8 years ago and properly prepared as a result of that. So you're going to have, when sports grow, you are going to have a wide. You cannot gatekeep the growth. Okay. You're going to have the bandwagon fans. You're going to have the people that just started from day one. You're going to have the diehard people. You're going to have everyone in between. Men, women, kids, children, you name it. Races, religion. You're going to have everyone that walks into that door. And, the reality is, not everyone is going to stay in the building. And that's okay. That's okay. Because all I know when I look around around in that building. There are a lot more people in that building now than there were a couple weeks ago. And those are the people to prioritize, because I do feel like the sport is growing. I was seeing all of my group chats going crazy talking about this match. Ones that I never talked to me about soccer any day in their life. I have literally crashed at their houses and gotten up at 4:30 in the morning to watch Arsenal matches and not heard a peep or even any level of curiosity of trying to understand why the hell am I up at 4:30 in the morning. And they're talking about this game. So the conversation being had is good. The people who stay or stay on, again, you're going to have people on both sides. But I do feel ultimately, being the host nation here, having this World Cup, having this run, even though as unfortunate as the ending was, and even the conversation now that is happening, as redundant as it tends to be, as people talk about, well, if we had Derrick Henry, I bet you we would play better.
Oh my
no,
God.
we won't. We won't. But it's
our 4,000 best athletes going up against the world's best 11. It's a different type of athlete. Lionel Messi's like 5'6" and is the greatest footballer maybe of all time. Like it doesn't. If you put Miles Garrett on a football pitch while he's pressing 300 pounds a day every day 50 times, that's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's the most nonsense conversation of all.
But again, these conversations are happening again, and again, as mundane as those conversations are that are happening, there are other conversations happening as well. What comes next? Some of the talent that we have coming up, like Kevin Sullivan. There's a great this youth men's national team. I believe it was the under-17 team made it to the quarterfinals of the under-17 World Cup. There's some great talent coming for this U.S. men's national team in 2030. The conversations of what we do with Pochettino, those are happening right now. The conversation of Christian Pulisic, which we haven't even talked about, absolutely no-showed in a World Cup where all the big stars have been showing up time and time again and dazzling and putting on performances. Christian Pulisic is nowhere to be found. Being dispossessed 11 times in the first half, 11 times. You are not going to win a knockout game when your best player can't get on the ball and can't hold the ball. You're just not. And if that is the best player we have, that is the conversation that needs to be had.
Listen, I'm glad you came in here with the Christian Pulisic thing, because I've got to tell you, I've never really got the Christian Pulisic situation in that I could see.
I didn't either.
I could see that he's a guy who clearly has talent and is a guy who clearly, on his day, and I'm sure he's had some brilliant performances for the USMNT in the past. But this guy is meant to be Captain America. This guy is meant to be the face of US soccer, and yet
he doesn't want to be, though, Will.
Maybe he doesn't want to be, but it's the position he's in, and yet 7 games he's now started at the World Cup. 3 of those he's come off with injury. In 8 appearances in total, he's scored just the 1 goal. And, full Bill Parcells of it all, the best availability, the best ability is availability. You can throw that all out there. But even when he's out there on the pitch, he just doesn't look like a game changer to me. You mentioned it, losing possession 11 times in that first 45 minutes. He's meant to be Captain America, and I left this going, Captain America my arse, frankly. I don't understand. Going forward, he's maybe got 1 more World Cup in him. You think he could go to 2?
If he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy for that one.
Exactly.
If he can stay healthy for that one.
I think you need to...
At this point, if he literally skipped out on the Gold Cup to try and stay healthy last summer for this World Cup. Mm-hmm. He has been able to be healthy. And he goes into this World Cup dealing with injuries once again. It is moving forward, whoever the men's national team coach is, it is incredibly difficult to have your dependency on a healthy Christian Pulisic, because that is something we have not seen on this stage. And that is a huge concern. When your best player is not available for the biggest tournament in the world as the host nation, and the best thing we're able to get from him is 45 minutes against Paraguay, I'm sorry, Will, that's not someone you can rely on. Yep. I don't care what you think. I don't care what he's done in domestic football. None of that matters here. He has not done it in the World Cup, and he didn't do it, unfortunately, in this tournament.
The thing is, domestically, hasn't scored in 6 months. You mentioned about missing the Gold Cup, which was, much to the chagrin of every former USMNT player who'd speak out about it, and I know we've got some strong thoughts about those guys, but to make that decision, to have that poor a form, to come into this tournament and in 5 games miss one entirely, come off in 2 of them injured, and really not have an impact. Arguably the best all-round performance. The first half against Paraguay, where admittedly he was a huge part of pulling the strings in that.
He played a big role in there. That was a great 45 minutes.
But actually, the game against Australia, where you looked so comfortable without him, was because they built it without him there. And I think there are guys coming through who you build this team around now, who you want to talk about doing well in a World Cup at 2030 and actually pushing beyond the round of 16 and really competing. I think Look, we're going to talk with Zito coming up momentarily, and there's another kind of point I want to raise on this idea about the mentality, but I feel like I want to give it some proper room to breathe and us to talk about it. But Christian Pulisic in particular, not showing up was astonishing to me. It was his moment to shine. It's the moment that guys like that should step up and make their biggest performance. And unfortunately for the USA and for him, it wasn't that moment. And I don't know if it's ever going to be that moment for him.
My lasting image, unfortunately, is I did stick to the final whistle. Because listen, whatever I thought about this performance, I wanted to make sure, I applauded the players as they came off the pitch and the staff and the crew. Again, it was a fun ride and an anticlimactic ending. The lasting images that will stick with me is Chris Richards. It looked like he was bawling, but literally on the floor to himself after that match for a few minutes as other players came and consoled him, and you could tell he was absolutely distraught by the performance and the results and the inability for this team to continue on and make it to the quarterfinals. And if there's anyone to build this team around moving forward, it is absolutely him. Chris Richards needs to be the focal point of this team. He needs to be the leader of this team. He needs to be the captain of this team. And everything that's done should be built around Chris Richards. This man has showed up time and time again for this team. He has been the hard rock. He's been the bedrock for this team. If there's enough with the Captain America, this or that, all this different stuff, build this thing around Chris Richards and move it forward from there.
Wonderful stuff, Master. I mean, not for you last night, but, a good breakdown. Zito's going to be joining us momentarily, so we will continue the USMNT breakdown. We will talk Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal departing the World Cup. We'll talk Spain. Phil Kitromilides will join us in the second hour. How much are they contenders? They came into this tournament as the outright favourites and then quite quickly fell into line with France before falling behind them, but they haven't conceded a goal yet. Unai Simon has gone 609 World Cup minutes without conceding a goal. Could they be that team who scrapped their way all the way to a final, winning every game 1-0? Are they still that team? We'll talk about that coming up
Belgium,
shortly.
Yuck.
Yeah. Master's making other plans for Friday or whenever that game is.
It was supposed to be in LA. I don't know what I'm doing now.
Staying in Atlanta.
Go for a walk.
Just stay in Atlanta. Go to Dallas. Just enjoy it anywhere else. Brad Friedal will join us a little bit later to give us some more talk on the player side of things. Zito Madu joins us up next. We've got a brilliant show for you. So get involved in the chat at the S Word powered by talkSPORT on YouTube or on the main talkSPORT YouTube channel. And we'll be back after this.
Yeehaw. Bringing all the biggest football debates.
Stateside.
The S Word.
From talkSPORT.
presents
The S Word.
high-energy exchanges, fiery fan reactions, and the biggest football debate.
The S Word.
From talkSPORT.
You're back with the S Word, sponsored by talkSPORT. I'm Will Gavin, live here in London. Master Tesfatian is in Atlanta, Georgia, in sight of that beautiful stadium where he's going to be going to watch Argentina, Egypt in just a few short hours' time. Have you got your Egypt kit ready to go? Are you representing the North African nation?
I will be rooting for Egypt. I probably shouldn't, but I will. I came here, Will. I needed, after seeing America not knowing how to bend the rules properly to their advantages, I came to see Argentina to see how it's really done.
Very good. Very good.
How you properly bend the rules to make sure you win.
Listen,
take some notes.
On that point, we've got loads of people getting in touch on the YouTube chat, on talkSPORT, the S Word powered by talkSPORT, and on the main talkSPORT channel. Micah, I never get it right, and then he corrects me every time. Says, morning, gents. It just wasn't our day. Lackluster performance from our crew, but I'm still so optimistic about soccer in the US. Our watch party last night had close to 1,000 people in rural West Virginia. That's what you want to hear. That's the stuff where you're like, is it going to hit the middle of America? Is it going to hit those areas where you don't necessarily think of as being the big football and soccer fan bases, the Brooklyns and the East Coast and LA,
West Virginia.
Yeah, there we go. They're just here for the John Denver. Paul says Pulisic, he could be loaned out to the MLS before he even turns 30. Dude couldn't beat a parking cone yesterday. Our friend Patio Joe gets in touch saying, tough loss last night. Give credit to Belgium. US picked the worst time to play their worst game, but they went about as far as I thought they would. Still lots of World Cup left to enjoy. Love that positivity. And here's the kind of point I wanted to get on. Rohan says, frauds eliminated last night, referring to both games. How lovely. The sport ain't tainted after all. And this is how I think the perception is going to be about last night. I think the feeling from the world is going to be the USMNT losing was for the good of football. And I think that's so unfair on the players. I think it's so unfair on Fowler and Balogun in particular, who has handled this whole situation with the utmost grace and class. Rudy Garcia, speaking in his press conference afterwards, revealed that Balogun came over and spoke to him after the game to personally apologise is the wrong word, but to address the situation with him directly. These are
a video of it too.
Yeah, and this is a group of players who, prior to last night, had played their hearts out, had put on some of the best performances we've ever seen from the US men's national team. They'd really brought a nation together and don't deserve to be tarnished with the brush that they're now being tarnished with. But what it does show you is that a billionaire supposed leader of the free world can cozy up to FIFA as much as he wants, and football is still 22 people on a pitch. It's still about 22 blokes going head to head. It's still about what happens between those white lines in those 90 minutes, and that you actually, as much as FIFA wants to corrupt football, as much as it seems like it wants to, stuff is still going to be decided by the football itself. For every issue that FIFA has had for this tournament, for everything from referees not getting into the country, to Iranians being denied visas, to half of Africa not being able to come and support their teams, all of these things which should have ruined this World Cup, the football has been brilliant throughout. I think my concern with the USMNT is that you become slight darlings, like maybe not as much as Mexico and the rest of the world, but like people were like, they wanted to see the USMNT do well. That seemed to flip over the course of 2 days with the narrative that was created by Donald Trump and by the administration getting involved in FIFA. What I wanted to see from the USMNT last night, Master, with all that in mind, you're used to being the villains on the international stage. You're used to being the team everyone roots against. And I saw none of that in the performance last night. I saw none of that kind of like us versus them. We're going to prove that it doesn't matter that people think that we cheated. We're going to go out and we're going to put on a performance anyway. And instead, I don't know. They disintegrated. This
isn't the player group to want to be villains. They want to be like so bad. And in a situation where they're called to be villains, they showed up as cowards. And so that's unfortunately the reality of this situation. Is they weren't willing to meet up to the moment. They weren't. And if there are people around the world, which absolutely they are. I've seen it on social media. I've seen it in my text messages I've seen it in our work group chats that are reveling in the fact that the U.S. is out as a result of what's
land of the freeze and all that.
I can't fault them. Yeah, who's that? Ollie that came up with that one?
Yeah.
He's been killing that. He's been killing that one to death.
Yeah. Just so you know, Ollie Klink, occasional presenter on this show, resent me all of his messages from the group chat last night just to remind me of all the great puns that he made, so I could reuse them on air if I wanted to. Thanks, Ollie, you big nerd. And listen, the sad thing for me is this is a diverse team presenting a new version of the US men's national team who are liked by people, and yet this is going to be that kind of overriding memory that no matter how good the vibes got, Trump got involved, and that's tarnished them and tarnished this whole thing, and I just think it's a real shame. But I know a man who has some strong thoughts on this, and a man I'm sure has some strong thoughts on the Usmnt in general in the World Cup. Is friend of the show, personal friend of yours. I'd like to think we're getting to that stage, Zito, the amount we've talked on air at this point, but at some point you and me are getting together at a watch party, we're having a few drinks, we're having a good time. That's what I want to see. Zito Madu joining the show and looking...
Thank you. I mean, it is a wonderful
smile
day.
his face than hearing a close personal friend.
Zito, are you in mourning this morning? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really great. I think it's a lovely day outside. I think, everyone's having a lovely time right now. But yeah, I watched it. Well, I watched part of the game, and then I ended up seeing it later that night, and it was so fantastic. I think, like, Master, what you were saying about how they weren't able to show up as the villains, I think you're right, but also you're asking that team to flip a switch to an identity that they didn't have, right? Like, Gavin, you were saying, like, they were loved. This was like the kind of like sweetheart, or like people wanted them to win. So to suddenly go from that and being like 2 days, you not have to become the villains is like a total identity change. I think the pressure of all of that was, you could see it on them. It's not even that they played and lost. It's like they didn't show up at all. But I think that's so much of, you're asking me to be a complete different team than I was for the whole tournament.
A completely different team in which these players are not built to be. In terms of that fight, that's not them. That is always, if anything, that has always been their Achilles heel, is in those moments where we needed to see that fight, we needed to see that vow, we needed to see that, that dark muse energy, I guess, as Kobe Bryant once would call it. They couldn't change. If anything, I saw more from Greg Berhalter than I saw from anyone else on that team when he came and got subbed on, and that speaks volumes in terms of the performance and the fight that we saw from this team that just did not show up.
Yeah. I also just don't understand why, and this is, I think, the political stuff that we were talking about. I don't understand why you would put that pressure on that team, right? Like, I think Pochettino understands what that team is. I think the team, like the players themselves, understand who they are. When all of this was happening, I think when it first started happening, I was like, oh, like, why would you do that to this team, right? Like, now you've made them the villains when they don't want to be. I think it's different than when the team is like, yeah, we're the villains, we're going to embrace this. But to sort of make the story of the U.S. men's national team, like Gavin, you said, it's this diverse team that's kind of presenting this new image of U.S. soccer, or at least like in the men's side, that's so different from the previous one. And is like trying to be as inclusive as possible, and is trying to like, bring as many people as possible. And like you're seeing the consequences of this all throughout the country, right? Like you're seeing it in West Virginia, you're seeing it in like Ohio, all of these things, and everyone's in a good mood. And then suddenly you're just like, let's go back to the most like rah-rah American. Let's laugh at everyone. Let's like bend the rules. And, I think there's a difference between bending the rules and then doing this so blatantly that your president is in a press conference talking about how he did it and how he's going to brag about it and how they're going to talk about it at the UN. I think that's much different in terms, like beyond making the U.S. putting the pressure on the U.S. men's national team. I think it also like invigorated Belgium, who hadn't actually been good this whole tournament. But then they're like, we're not just playing for us, we're playing for the soul of football. And then you end up running into a buzzsaw of like players who are actually better than you and who are motivated to actually embarrass you now.
It's fascinating to me, particularly because in what has been an inherently political World Cup, which has been unavoidable, regardless of how the players and the people on the pitch feel about it, Mauricio Pochettino has actually done a really good job of keeping that out of the men's national team, of making it, that's been a FIFA issue, that's been a Trump issue, that's been whatever that whole situation is. It's never necessarily directly linked to the actual national team and how they're performing. And after making every effort to make sure politics didn't become part of it, Donald Trump sticks his oar in and the co-hosts go from being, everyone's darlings to suddenly a team that people want to see lose. And I don't want that. I want hosts to go further in tournament. If we weren't the team facing Mexico, I'd love Mexico to be in the next round because they've been brilliant and a joy to watch. I slightly torn loyalties on that one, but it's the same here. Like, for the show, for the sake of the tournament, for everything else, the US men's national team still being in this tournament would be for the good of the tournament, the good of the country, and for the good of us. And yet, I totally get why some people are pleased and banging the drum and delighted this morning that you're out.
Yeah, I mean, like you were right that Pochettino has done really well of keeping the politics outside of the team, right? And I think what you were saying earlier about how like FIFA's tried so hard, or like FIFA's corruption has kind of like tried so hard to ruin the tournament, but the games have been good. Like, I've always made this argument that like FIFA wants the games to succeed because that's also how they get away with everything else. And what they're, it's like if the World Cup is great, you don't really talk too much about everything else, right? I think we saw this in Qatar, where there was a lot of conversation before the game started. Then as soon as everyone realized that the World Cup games were great, it was like, well, let's not really worry about this at this moment, etc. But I think what FIFA has always been really good at doing is like, once the games start, we're not talking about anything else. Like, nothing else can encroach on this. We just let the games and the players kind of like remind people how beautiful this game is, right? So like, you've seen it here. It's like, no one really talks about the ICE situation anymore. No one really talks about the visa stuff as much. Even when the situation with Vazina came out, like his mom couldn't be there, like the State Department went really fast in bringing her in so everyone could stop talking about it. And so you see this way that FIFA kind of like creates this bubble around the actual field so that people can have those positive feelings associated with the game. I think what this did was to infringe on that bubble in a very direct way, right? Like, I don't think we've had a World Cup, at least in my lifetime, where right in the middle of the tournament, in the knockout stages, it's just like, here's the politics in the most brazen way, right? It's like, here's the politics, here's the president of the host country, here's him bragging about, this corruption, here's FIFA struggling to even deal with it. And like the other nations, the UEFA, Bosnia, all these nations are now like filing an appeal or like putting out statements talking about how corrupt all of this is. I think that is counter to how FIFA likes to do things, which is once the games start, no one say anything, no one say or do anything. And because of that, now you have all this host country out, and now all three host countries are out, right? So I think everyone wanted the U.S. to do well because it's always nice when the host country is represented really well. I think it was nice that this team looks so different from the previous teams. I think it was nice that they were like playing and giving people hope and like building a soccer culture around here. And it sucks that the lasting effect of that is like a lot of distaste, and not just not just in some American fans, but like the whole world just like sees it as like this beacon of corruption now, right? Balogun doesn't deserve to be the poster boy for Article 27. It should have been Ronaldo, but like now it's Balogun, and now it's Balogun's like forever linked with Donald Trump.
And all that to happen, and Balogun didn't do much either. And again, maybe the pressure and the weight on him and the amount of attention he was getting for this was something that he wasn't looking forward to. As Will mentioned earlier, him chatting with Rudy Garcia after the match and explaining the whole situation, and all of this to get behind him, all the attention that Balogun won, which again, it's the same guy that also went on an entire recruiting journey as he was trying to decide between England and the United States about which country he was going to go to. So to a certain extent, there is the attention that he does love, but again, it fits in line with all these other players where they enjoy the positive attention, but when it becomes controversial or negative, they can't really challenge that. And I think Balogun's play was impacted as a result of that.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't play well, right? Like, he didn't play well. He did a few flicks, but he just didn't want to be out there. But also, there's another U.S. superstar who didn't want to be out there and who got a convenient ankle injury that took him out. But I don't think we want to talk about that as much.
Oh, no, we already did.
Yeah, we don't worry. I used the phrase Captain America my arse earlier, Zito. So
no, trust me.
That's where we are with this.
This is not a apologetic Christian Pulisic show here. Trust me. We could take off the gloves on him. He did not show up once again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
in a World Cup in which all the big stars did. And again, what do you do with Pulisic now? Because the conversation always around him, I just feel like has always been more inflated than it should be in terms of his prowess and prominence on this team. But whether it's performance or whether it's availability, there's no way you can build this thing around him in 2030, bro.
Well, you can always build the commercials around him. He'll always have that.
What do you do, though? What do you do with him?
I mean, he just has to become, I think like he is in Milan, he just has to become one of the players, right? Like, I think you saw in this, even Balogun was taking more charge than him, right? Like, he's been injured, he's had the hamstring injury, but he just doesn't, like, Balogun kind of was living up to that moment, right? He's like, all right, we're the host country, we're playing, I'm scoring, like I'm doing the extra work, I'm working hard. Where I think Pulisic, I remember I think it was the GQ interview before the tournament where he said, oh, this isn't as different as from any other like game that I play in, but like he's doing a kind of like nonchalant gimmick. And I was like, even the biggest players that I've seen in the sport would never do this gimmick for the World Cup. Right, even if it's not a World Cup that they're playing at home. If you ask Zidane or like Ronaldo or like Messi, like, does the World Cup matter? They're like, yeah, this is the greatest competition I'm trying to win. Where you saw Pulisic going like, well, it's just like every other thing. And I think you saw immediately that he was not, I don't know, like he didn't have the right attitude going into it. And it showed in his play as well, right? Like I was watching the last night game and I was like, oh, he's not even pushing or trying to do anything. And he's not even like being forceful in that same way that you sometimes see him play like in the past. He just was out there to be a number on the field. And I think it really showed. Like the blame is so much on the politics, but I think a lot of those players really didn't even play to their regular level, right? McKennie was another one of them. I remember when he got fouled, and I was like, I forgot that he was on that field.
Let me ask you, Zito, and I guess that's the same question extends to Master a little bit here as well. Just before we let you go, the USMNT are out, so who are you rooting for the rest of this competition?
I think Master has seen this from the games that we've like seen each other at. But you know, I am a Frenchman that was born in Marseille.
So you're a bandwagon front jumper. I see. I get it.
I've always supported the French.
Who's the favourite? Right, I'm going to find some. Can I do one of those family tree DNA tests to see how French I am?
I just want to say, you know, as a huge fan of Marseille, as a man who was born on the Mediterranean Sea and floated to the old port, I just have to support my people.
I get that. I think Master's just anyone but England at this point.
I am going to. You have never seen a black man row as much as I'm about to row for this. I'll tell you that much. I'm about to be that month. I'm about to be like Jameis Winston. All you gonna hear is, ooh, 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 ooh.
Have you heard,
that is literally going to be the entire time.
Have you heard the amazing Norwegian sha-la-la-la-la-la song? It's so good. We're going to play it in a bit, and I'm going to translate it for you because it's sensational stuff.
There's nothing Norwegian that I know outside of fish and Erling Haaland and Norway. So I'm excited to learn more about your culture, Norway.
Wonderful. Norwegians, if you're involved, Master's on your side now, so get in touch with him on social media and you'll find us at talkSPORT S-Word everywhere as well. Zito,
send them home.
We always love having you on. Thank you so much for your insights. Enjoy the games today, the quarterfinals. I'm sure we'll talk to you again in the not too distant, but really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
The beautiful Zito Madu joining us here on the S-Word. I'm Will Gavin, Master Tesfatian, live out in Atlanta ahead of that Argentina game later on. Still so much to come up. Phil Kitromilides joining us. We're going to get the Belgian, the Portuguese perspective, and Brad Friedal all still to come on the show. So keep it locked.
Big show.
The daily deep dive into the world of football.
The S-Word
from talkSPORT. presents
The S Word.
Listen again and subscribe.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
And on the talkSPORT USA YouTube channel.
You're back with the S Word, sponsored by Calci. I'm Will Gavin, live out in Atlanta ahead of the Argentina-Egypt game. Let's be respectful to both teams. Later today is the wonderful master Tez Fathian, and we are live with you for the next just over an hour or so's time. Of course, it's been all about the USMNT so far, crashing out of the tournament at the round of 16. We'll continue that conversation with Brad Friedal coming up shortly, but there were really two huge stories coming out of last night. One of the host nations going out, but also Cristiano Ronaldo playing his final ever minutes of World Cup football as Portugal lost 1-0 to a late Mikel Merino Spain winner. And I'm delighted to say, let's get straight to the guest here because I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say. The brilliant Eric Krakauer is with us here on the S Word, friend of the show. A man who knows what it's like for people to get up in his mentions thanks to us on the Cristiano Ronaldo stuff. Eric, thoughts, feelings after this Portugal team with so much promise goes out of the round of 16?
First of all, glad to be back on with you fellas. Master, nice to chat with you. Listen, when you've resigned yourself to your fate long before you meet it, it's a lot easier to digest it. So while I was disappointed, mostly angry yesterday, I'm well over what happened.
Just like that. I mean, that's hard for me to believe because, I mean, there was expectations for this Portuguese side to be a dark horse team, a team that can win it all. And, we'll get to Cristiano Ronaldo here soon. But, bro, that midfield was atrocious. Bruno Fernandes and Vitinha, as much as I expected from them in this tournament, did not show up. And the goal that was conceded, you literally have Bruno crying to the officials on the foul. And Spain, takes advantage of that moment and finds the only decisive goal, the differential in that match. Like, again, we'll get to Cristiano Ronaldo here in a minute, but there's no way you can be satisfied by the way that midfield performed.
No, I'm not. I didn't say I'm satisfied, but the thing is, I was on this show and plenty of other shows before the World Cup talking about how the expectations that people had imposed on Portugal or projected onto Portugal were vastly inflated. And that I knew that this was a team that had lots of issues that it needed to correct were they to have a very good campaign. But when you have a Roberto Martinez at the helm, I'm sorry, nice guy, a gentleman, a good ambassador for the country, it was just obvious that things weren't going to work out. If that makes any sense.
You can say all that lovely stuff about him. Roberto Martinez, you can say, a nice ambassador, a nice chap, everything else. Managerially, he's an absolute charlatan. He won an FA Cup in 2013. He did nothing at Everton. I think he finished fifth in the first season with them, but then tailed off horrendously after that. He wasted a golden generation with Belgium. He's now wasted Cristiano Ronaldo's last chance at a World Cup, whether or not you want to debate that he should be doing it. He won a Nations League. People on the show feel very differently about that tournament. I'll tell you that for nothing. He wasn't strong enough in saying we needed to make changes, and he wasn't strong enough with Cristiano Ronaldo, and eventually I think that is what's cost this team.
Yes, well, I would begin by saying that he didn't know the changes that he had to make, and he was also weak with Cristiano Ronaldo. In fact, I will go further than that. Apart from Cristiano Ronaldo, nobody has done more to taint his legacy with the Portuguese national team than Roberto Martinez. It was the equivalent, I've been thinking about analogies here. It is the equivalent of having a friend who has an addiction, okay, let's say gambling, for example, and instead of saying, hey, bud, you got to get off of that, okay, you give them a phone with an app, a gambling app, okay? Or if somebody has a drinking addiction, you hand them a glass of wine. That is what Roberto Martinez did to Cristiano Ronaldo. We all know about Cristiano Ronaldo's ego, the fact that he thinks that he can still be the key piece to this Portuguese national team. It behooved Roberto Martinez to say, Cristiano, you can be a piece of this team, but you are no longer the focal point. You are no longer the star man. But beyond that, he didn't, and to Master's point, he didn't have a plan to get the most out of Vitinha and Bruno Fernandes and João Neves. In fact, it is a travesty that he took one of the most intrepid central midfielders, forward-thinking central midfielders and turned him into a sideways passing merchant. And I'm talking about Vitinha. This isn't just about Vitinha. This is about what Roberto Martinez did to Vitinha.
I get all that, and obviously I'm not going to disagree with anything you just said about Roberto Martinez, but to say that he didn't make changes when the reason why they beat Croatia was the changes that he made for once, I think in this World Cup, whether it was his last one that he had, no longer have to deal with the Federation, whatever the case may be, he did sub out Cristiano Ronaldo, he subbed out Vitinha, he subbed out Bruno Fernandes, and they found a way to win against Croatia, a very tough Croatian side. So while I do, again, I am not absolving Roberto Martinez at all from the issues that are resolved here. I just don't think that it completely absolves Bruno Fernandes and Vitinha either. Because I've seen Bruno Fernandes with Ruben Amorim serve as a holding midfielder in Manchester United, playing out of position and still leading the Premier League in chances created. Where was that Bruno? Where was that Vitinha that we've seen at PSG that has made difference time and time again? Well, that again, the same team was the same team that faced Spain in the Nations League final and showed up and put up a tremendous performance. I did not see that from these two, and I think they're getting off way too easy off this World Cup because of Cristiano Ronaldo and because of Roberto Martinez conversations. These two did not show up.
I'm not suggesting that there isn't some truth to that, but I would argue that Portugal beats Croatia in spite of Roberto Martinez and not because of Roberto Martinez. Okay? Roberto Martinez in that game, when Croatia go a goal up, panics and makes 4 substitutions in one fell swoop. He takes out Vitinha and Bruno Fernandes among the 4. I'm not saying that that was the wrong decision, but he loses the midfield, and he was very fortunate that he gets a corner, and there's a penalty called in favor of Portugal, which I thought was a little soft. It's a foul, but it's not one that gets called. After Cristiano Ronaldo scores that goal, Portugal have a vacuum in the middle of the field. And if it weren't for an offside decision against Croatia, Croatia are back in front. So now Roberto Martinez is forced into another substitution. He has 1 left. He needs a midfielder. He wants to bring in Ruben Neves. I don't even think he's the best option in that situation. The game is thrown into chaos by his 4 substitutions. He looks at Rafael Leão, he looks at Gonçalo Ramos, who he put on to play alongside Cristiano, not in for Cristiano. He also sees Cristiano Ronaldo, and he has to make a very difficult choice about whom to pull off. I don't think he ever planned on pulling Cristiano, but he realized that he needed a little bit of width, and the only person who was creating, despite the defensive liabilities, was Rafael Leão. Gonçalo Ramos has just been put into the game, so he has to take off Cristiano Ronaldo. That was not planned. That is not good coaching. That is reactionary. And it paid off in the end with a little bit of luck. So everything that happened, okay, that was good was in spite of Roberto Martinez, and everything that happened that was bad was because of Roberto Martinez, and I'll go to my grave saying that. But that does not say that there isn't culpability in those players that you mentioned, Master. But I will add this. In a collective, it is very hard even for good players to come through when the whole thing is just disjointed, dysfunctional, and that's what it was. Okay, Vitinha and Bruno Fernandes, despite all the issues that Manchester United had runners ahead of them, okay? Had people who could press. Look at PSG. What Neves and Vitinha do has a lot to do with the front 3, not only what they do with the ball, but also the positions that they can occupy without them because of the pressing that happens in front of them. So this is a collective issue.
On to the Cristiano Ronaldo of it, because there's a lot you said there that I agree with. I think like the fact that Gonçalo Ramos doesn't get a single minute in this game, despite the fact that over the last 2 World Cups, he's got 4 goals in 184 non-penalty goals in 187 minutes of football. Cristiano Ronaldo, in 8 games worth of football, has 2 open play goals in that time. Like, he is meant to be the future of this team. He is meant to be what it's building around. And people always kind of wonder, when you get into the Messi, the Ronaldo, all of that stuff, which can feel boring at times, people want to know why people don't like Cristiano Ronaldo. Why, even though he's clearly a brilliant footballer, a winner, a guy who's done some things we've never seen anyone else do on the pitch, I look at his behaviour yesterday. I look at him in his post-game press conference saying, I'll wake up tomorrow in the same mood I did today. I did my best. We won 3 titles with Portugal. Before me, it was 0 titles. I can only be happy. It's never about how he's affecting the team going forward. It's never about how he's affected the team in that moment. He's a guy who then talked about winning the Euros in 2016. He considers the same as winning a World Cup. You can ask anyone who's never won the World Cup but has won the Euros if they consider it the same, and I promise you they don't. And I would love England to have won a Euros at some point in the last 60 years. Don't get me wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but the World Cup is something else, and it just feels like he always wants to diminish the stuff that's not what he's doing and he's achieving. And he's become almost Trumpian in his behaviour when he's talking about this stuff, where, I don't know, he either believes it himself or he just knows he's got the backing of the world so much of his stands that he can just get away with saying what he wants, and people are just going to go, oh, brilliant, legend, love him. But he held this team hostage over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that. And listen, Will, you know exactly how I feel about Cristiano Ronaldo, okay? This is a guy who carried the Portuguese national team for over a decade, who didn't always have the supporting cast that he needed. And I think that plays into those statistics that you mentioned about how many goals he scored in the tournament, in the knockout stages. It didn't all come down to him. In fact, a lot of it came down to bad coaching and to a supporting cast that didn't have the quality that this one does. But let's talk about 2022 and let's talk about this tournament. It was already clear in 2022 that he shouldn't be starting, that Gonçalo Ramos should. We saw what happened against Switzerland, how impactful he was scoring a hat-trick. The problem was that afterwards against Morocco, Gonçalo Ramos and the fact that Fernando Santos dropped Cristiano Ronaldo, that became the discussion rather than a poor game plan with many of the same fragilities that we saw in this tournament impacting them against a well-organized and deadly Morocco in transition. But in this tournament, to your point, he absolutely held the team hostage, and so too did Roberto Martinez. But to Master's point, it wasn't only about Cristiano Ronaldo. All those other pieces didn't work as well. For example, I believe that if you are going to insist on keeping Cristiano Ronaldo on the team, you need to devise a blueprint that is going to help him have an impact on the match. There wasn't enough verticality from anybody else, okay? If there wasn't enough crossing in opportune moments. I'm not saying that you have to do what Mexico did at the end of the game against England, where you're just bombarding the box, but you need to provide more service that unfortunately didn't come. When people say that he didn't have enough touches in the penalty box, partly that happened because there was a lack of service and other players who could facilitate his game. Also his positioning against Spain, when he didn't see the ball, he went looking for it, which annoyed the hell out of me. But ultimately, you're right, Will. This has everything to do with the fact that he shouldn't have been on the field for 90 minutes, that Gonçalo Ramos deserved the opportunity to be one of the star men. And if not Gonçalo Ramos, play João Felix in a false 9 and have runners ahead of him that he can help stretch the game with. So yes, it's been a disaster. His legacy has been tainted, and he is a narcissist. We have always known that he is a narcissist, but you could put up with that when he was putting up the goals as well. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case in this tournament. But this comes down more than Cristiano Ronaldo. This comes down to Roberto Martinez and the fact that he was and has been completely inept as the national team coach of Portugal.
Wonderful stuff from you, Eric, as always. Really appreciate it. Master, I really want to get your thoughts on this in the second hour, but we're very late to break and we've got Brad Friedal joining us momentarily. So, Eric, brilliant stuff from you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The wonderful Master Tess Fathian is with me live in Atlanta. We'll hear a lot more from him on this subject in the next hour, I promise, Master, because I'm itching to hear what you've got to say about this. So we'll get into that in the next hour. We've also got Phil Kitromilides joining us. We've got Brad Friedal joining us. So much still to come on the show. Big show. Keep locked in to the S Word. Sponsored by
Around here, we only use the F word.
talkSPORT presents
The S Word. S Word,
featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian.
and a squad of big-name contributors
The S Word.
from talkSPORT.
Coming up this hour on the S Word, sponsored by County, the great Sacha Tavolieri will join us as we talk about the Belgian side of things as they go on to face Spain in the next round. Phil Kitromilides will be here as well. It's lots of multi-syllable surnames that I'm definitely going to trip over in the next hour. I can feel it coming already. At least I'm not operating on 45 minutes sleep like yesterday. At least, though, he'll give us the Spain side of things from that Portugal conversation as well. But I'm Will Gavin here in London, the great Master Tess Fassian out in Atlanta. He was in Seattle. He watched the Usmnt crash out of the round of 16, and now he's headed off to Atlanta, I guess, to hope that Argentina crash out. Like, is that like?
I'm hoping everyone crashes out. If I have to crash out, damn it, so do you.
Oh, good.
You're coming down with me.
Haru. I want to play that Norway song a little bit later in the show, by the way. 100%. I guess that's what we get for playing Kurt Angle at the top of the show and saying you suck to you multiple times over and over again.
I said it to myself. There's no other way to feel about that match other than you suck.
Listen, thrashed by an angry and motivated seeming Belgian side last night who went and did the Trump dance celebration after the fourth goal as well. Let's talk a little bit more about this game, and I'm delighted to say that joining us, USMNT legends and member of the talkSPORT team for this World Cup, the great Brad Friedal is here. Brad, how are you, sir?
Very good. How are you guys?
Don't
shake your head. Come on, I'll talk you through it.
We've seen better days, Brad.
Talk him off the ledge, Brad. Come on.
Well, I mean, we spoke before the World Cup. I mean, where I'm at is I wanted the game I was worried about the most was Paraguay. We played very well. I just wanted to get through the group. I wanted to finish in first or second, so we had a favorable draw. And I told you guys on this program is once we face one of the big boys, the stars are going to have to align for us to win, and that's where we're at. We have some very good players, but we've had very good players over all of our tournaments. We don't have to go through them, but with Richards and Robinson and McKinney Adams, et cetera. One thing that we still need to grow on as a nation, and that's just to become a soccer nation, is the mentality of the sport. I always worry when we play against teams that have pace on the wings, and they started Luca Bacchio, which was the perfect player to start. I thought that they might play Doku as well, because when you take away Freeman's pace and you take away Robinson's pace and pin them back, I think Christian found it really difficult, and Dest found it really difficult because they're now only 1v1 and not having overlapping players. And we don't have a ball-playing midfield that's going to out-ball people. And so when you take away our pace and our forward progress, then we're going to have difficult times against the better teams. But I don't think that's a shame. I don't think it's the program's bad. I don't think that all the chips are down. We're still growing, and it's going to take a long time to catch up to these countries, especially when we don't get all the best athletes, when they're not born in the U.S. and always wanting to be soccer players. We don't have big media rights deals in the league, but everything's growing. I don't mean to sound doom and gloom. From 94 to today, it's come leaps and bounds, and it's going to continue to do so. So I still think there's a lot of positive things to look at.
I love what you talked about in terms of Luca Bacchio, the speed that they had, the pace, especially taking advantage of those wingers, because it just felt like, from my vantage point, seeing Jedi and Tim Ring having to deal with being overwhelmed at a lot of times and having numeral advantages that Belgium would have, either having 3v2s or 2v1s, where Jedi's kind of out on his own and having to draw Christian back to help defend that. And it felt like our midfield was just stretched as a result of that.
It would have happened, and against Spain, it would have been worse. Against France, it would have been worse. Against England, it would have been worse. It doesn't actually. Belgium's a really good team. They've been a little bit sleepy in this tournament. It didn't help that we gave them the added impetus to really stick it to us, which they did. You could see that it meant something to them with their celebration after Lukaku's goal, and also with their FA's post right after the match. I thought Balogun was very classy, very respectful when he went up and spoke to Garcia afterwards. But I just wish people would just put it into perspective what it is. You have to put the development of soccer in the United States in two categories: infrastructure and then the development of players. From '94 to today, infrastructure is if it was a point 0.5 or a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10 back in '94, it's a 7, 8, or 9 now, depending on which state you're going into. And with regards to the developmental players, we're very similar to what we were back in 2002. We produce some really good players. They still need to go over to Europe to become better players. But we're working. We have to work on that. But it's the mentality of the player, the mentality, the mindset that we have to grow on. And we still have a long way to go. Like, knockout football against the top 10 rated teams in the world is really difficult, and we're not there yet.
We obviously have to ask you about what happened with Matt Friis yesterday, going full Young Wei Koo on his attempt to clear that ball out. The problem with the goalkeeper, as always, it's like a lineman, to go back to another NFL analogy. It's one of those things where until you do your job badly, nobody necessarily notices, unless you're making spectacular saves, etc. But how does he handle that? Okay. How much did that knock the game over? Like, how do you handle that as a goalkeeper? What did you make of the mistake?
Well, I think the game was knocked over the second that they scored 61 seconds after we scored the equalizer. I think you could just see it in the play. They're like, wow, we're really up against it. I'll break down the goal. I thought his starting position was very, very good. I think his initial movement was very good. I think his first touch was very good. Where he made his mistake, he got caught in two minds. Should I just clear the ball, or should I take another touch and pass it? He ended up doing a little bit of both. His foot stuck in the ground. I think it was the Kettler, correct, who poked it away from him, and the rest was history. And then Tim Ream got caught, backpedaling and couldn't open up his foot to stop the goal. It's a mistake, but I really think people need to put it into perspective. He played 5 games in a World Cup and made 1 mistake. Yeah, I mean that was Matt Friis's tournament. He had 1 mistake in 5 games. Other goalkeepers have made many more mistakes than that.
Who'd be a goalkeeper, right? Like, so rough. Master Goal.
The sentiment I'm hearing from a lot of my friends, whether they're casuals or diehards, is we're back in the same spot that we always get eliminated in. Do you share that same sentiment?
Except 2002.
Yeah. Fair enough. The last 4, at least I should say. Do you feel that same sentiment with this one? Did the knockout win in the round of 32, did that make any difference? Did winning the group and having those 2 wins, did that make it feel any different to you? What is it, or is this a similar sentiment as the last 4 World Cup trips to the knockouts?
Yeah, it's different for me because I look at it from a fan perspective, but also a realist, and where we're at in the building of the game and the growing of the game. So from a fan perspective, it feels the same. If we were knocked out in the semifinals or even the final, if you lose, you lose. You go home. You don't lift the trophy, and that's the same sentiment. From a realist point of view, I thought this was a great success because I thought we finished first in the group, which we had done before as well. But we finished first in a group that I thought Turkey was going to finish first in, and they ended up falling really flat in this tournament. I do think when we did play the 2 best teams, being Turkey and Belgium, in our run, we find it difficult against the European teams. Always have. I know we changed the lineup, but by finishing first and then getting the round of 32 game against a team that we should beat in Bosnia, and we did beat them, I think that's a success. And I said it before the tournament started that once we get to a point where we're playing a better team, and I even mentioned Belgium in it, with Belgium, Spain, France, England, Germany, and we lose, we can still walk away with our heads held high. I guess the only disappointment to yesterday's game was we were torn apart from minute 1. Like, I even though we scored the goal, I still was never thinking that we're really in the game. It was the deflected free kick. I think Courtois, first time he actually had to make a save was off Balogun in the 80th minute. But I just think Belgium absolutely took the wind out of our sails. I think they killed us to every second ball. I think they were, and I really think they wanted to beat us 10-0 because of what went on the 24 hours previous.
On that very point, Brad, because that adds extra motivation for Belgium. That gives them that extra impetus, a team who we hadn't really seen show up until, the last 8 minutes of their knockout game with Senegal. But as a guy who's been inside those locker rooms, who knows about player mentality, etc., do you think it also affected the USMNT and their approach?
I just answered this to someone else. Before the game, I would have said no. But then when I saw Balogun go straight up to Garcia, when I saw the reaction of some of the other players, yeah, I think it did. I think it most definitely did. And with regards to it helping Belgium, when you get to knockout competition in whether it's the Euros or even Gold Cups or World Cups, there are really fine margins of who wins and how they win. I mean, just look at the game earlier yesterday in Spain-Portugal. They're just really small elements. And we gave them a boost. Why? It was not needed at all. And, they're already going to be favorites going into the game. And then you give a favorite an even more of an impetus to go out there. And with almost I felt for the first time in a couple of years, I saw a Belgian team playing like they hated us. And they wanted to beat us no matter what, to every single ball, throw in, goal kick, corner kick, goal, everything. And if you look back to the last couple of years of Belgium playing, they haven't looked like that. It's the most intense I've seen them play in a long time.
So you described this tournament as a success for the U.S. men's national team. Now what's next? Pochettino's contract expires. Do you bring him back?
I do, personally, because I think the biggest problem with U.S. development is the mentality of the player. Not the technical abilities of the player, not what our match schedule. It's a mentality of the players. And I think if he were here for another 4 years, he could help a lot inside the MLS clubs, inside USL clubs, and what it really means. And then maybe we could start making a step into the crazy world of US youth soccer and stuff like that, because he's from the outside view. He'll come in and he'll say exactly what he thinks, and they'll have no problem making hard decisions. So me personally, I'd like to see him stay from that point of view, because I think he'd be a person that can really help with the mentality of the US player.
So much of the conversation, and this is also kind of looking forward, going into these tournaments, is about the star man, Christian Pulisic. He's the face of US soccer. He's Captain America. He's the star boy. He's everything else. And yet 7 appearances over 2 World Cups, comes off injured in 3 of them, just the 1 goal to his name in that time. Do you look to move off building the team around him going forwards? Do you have to look at an option B? Because he's 31 the next World Cup. It might be his last one based on his injury history. It feels like it's a career that's missed the mark.
I mean, building off of him, that's a question for the next head coach, or Mauricio, if he's the coach. What I would say, just in a realist point of view, is he had 45 minutes of really good football in this tournament, and that was the first 45 against Paraguay. I thought he looked magnificent, but that's not enough from your star players. You look around all the top players. I mean, look at the Golden Boot race right now. Messi's name's up there, Haaland's name's up there, Kane's name's up there, Mbappe's name's up there, Dembele's name's up there, and it's just on and on and on and on. All the big boys have come to play in this World Cup, and they're showing it, and we needed Christian to perform. Unfortunately, he missed a couple games due to injury, but when he did play, the Bosnia game, that wasn't up to a standard that you would need, and yesterday for sure. But I also stand by the fact that he's not one that can open up a game just on his own. He needs the help of Robinson on the left-hand side. And I'll stand by my point. When people play with quick wingers against us, they're going to isolate our wingers, and it was Dest and Christian into 1v1 situations, also them having to go up against physical players, and it's hard.
Maybe it's fortunate we didn't have to see you against Lamine Yamal then. Brad Friedal, wonderful stuff from you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, as always.
Brad, I will be rowing
Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Come on.
Listen, I will. When Norway beats England, I will be rowing my boat.
Is that
gently down?
Actually, you think that's going to happen?
I'm praying for it, Brad. As I was praying for Mexico, and I'll pray for whoever else England faces.
I'll tell on my English pal.
Brad, it's coming home, baby. It's coming home. Don't you listen to a word.
Oh, don't say that song. I don't mind.
They're going home.
You know I would like England to win it now. That's no problem. But don't sing that song. Don't sing it.
I'll sing that song all day long when we bring the trophy home, my friend.
Oh, here we go. No.
Yeah, baby. God, we won one knockout match in spectacular fashion, and suddenly we feel ourselves like we're the US. Wonderful stuff.
He wanted a smile. Brad wanted a smile. He got a smile.
He got smiles, didn't he? He got smiles in their abundance.
All right.
The wonderful Brad Friedal joining us. He's still there. He still just wants to hang out with us. You can stay if you want, Brad. Phil Kitromilides is joining us coming up shortly to talk about the Spanish angle. They are through to the next stage. We will talk a bit of Belgium as well with Sacha Tavolieri. And me and you, Master, we still got to chop some stuff up. So don't you worry, plenty still to come here on the S-Word sponsored by
What else is there to talk about?
Plenty.
From kickoff to the full-time whistle,
talkSPORT presents
the S-Word.
Words here. Just 2 hours of full-on football dialogue.
Every day.
talkSPORT presents
the S-Word.
You're back with the S-Word, sponsored by County. I'm Will Gavin, live here in London. The great master Tez Fatsion mourning the Usmnt crashing out of the 2026 World Cup. But he's already overnight got as far away from Seattle as he possibly could, because he's in Atlanta, ready ready for this 12 o'clock kickoff Eastern.
That is the beautiful thing about America, Will. Whenever you have a problem, you can catch a flight, you can hop on in a car, a bus, and run away from your problems.
Plane, trains, and automobile your way as far away from your issues as humanly possible. I get you, brother. I get you. You've just sent us a photo, by the way. You can see the sun starting to come through the window there in Master's hotel room. Out that window, I mean, literally 90 degrees from where the camera is now, is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, is the Atlanta, Georgia Stadium, whatever it's called. And you've just shown us a photo of the fan park where the Argentina fans are already piling in. The draw is opening up nicely, potentially on that side, and just in general the quarterfinals are looking really tasty now. But one team who are there, we know are there, old Espanyol. They creeped past Portugal last night. They sent Cristiano Ronaldo home crying, and here's how you heard it on talkSPORT.
Nuno Mendes, he fires in the shot, which is deflected off the crossbar, and Portugal so close to the opening goal. Nuno Mendes really got hold of that, and it took a deflection off a Spanish head.
We've now played an hour. Spain's last shot on target was in the 16th minute.
Don't want to blame Cristiano Ronaldo sort of all the time, but it's the elephant in the room, isn't it? It's the question that must be in not just Martinez's mind, but anybody who's Portuguese as well. It's not just about taking Ronaldo off, but at what point does Gonzalo Ramos come on?
Fabian Ruiz plays it forward, here's the chance, and there's the goal for Spain from Mikel Merino.
And if you're going to score a goal, and it's the first goal of the game, score in the 91st minute.
And that is it. Spain march on, but it's all over for Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal.
Ronaldo, I've got the ultimate respect for him. Again, I'll go back to, I worked on Spanish football for 4 years, and he was absolutely sensational. He's one of the greatest players this planet has ever produced. But he's 41 years of age, and if he's not getting those, he's getting few touches, but if he's not getting the proper touches and the proper service, then actually you're losing a bit out as well without the ball, which Gonzalo Ramos runs around, he chases, he presses, but he also comes off the bench and scores a goal.
That was the thoughts of Scott Minto, the former Benfica defender, former Chelsea defender, and of course a man who kind of covered the Spanish league for so long in this country. He was on commentary last night for talkSPORT as Spain eked past Portugal. 1-0 winners, which is just going to be enough for Spain in this tournament. 609 minutes Unai Simon has gone without conceding a goal now, Master. Before we get to our guest, Master, do you think Spain can go on and win this tournament in full-on 1-0 to the Arsenal style and get all the way through just playing this football?
I don't see why not, as long as they're not conceding defensively in terms of what they've been able to do. You figure at some point that Lamine Yamal will turn up, and as he continues to regain his fitness, if they're getting the same production again from Alex Baena, what they've seen the last two matches from the left, Oyarzabal, honestly, the truest question is, can this midfield continue to piece things together, and whether it is Rodri and Pedri, or whether it is Mikel Merino and Ferran Torres coming on, there's so much depth that they have that they can find a way to eke out these 1-0 victories. Why not? Why not? They're just as talented as any other team in this tournament right now.
Look, I know you're a man that loves XG. More than any other stat humanly possible. I'm aware that XG is in no way a perfect stat.
Don't do this. Don't do it before you drop an XG. Don't get the disclaimer before you drop an XG chat. That just kind of defeats the purpose. Don't say the stat.
It's only because when you're looking comparatively between the teams, it is a good indication of just how good defensively they've been. They have conceded an XG of 1.49 goals across their 5 games so far. Portugal last night was the most by a country mile at 0.63. But then I have to just question, is this Spanish team as brilliant at the back? Are Kabasi and Laporte as good as they look to us? Is Unai Simon an impenetrable goalkeeper? Or have they just faced Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, Austria, and a Portuguese side being led by a man who seemingly can no longer play top-tier football? And so that's a question we've got to get to with our guest. The brilliant Phil Kitromilides is with us. Phil, how are you, sir?
Hello, guys. Good morning.
Long time no see.
Yeah, we miss you. How have you been, brother?
I've been watching Spain progress to the quarterfinals without conceding a goal. So, yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good. It's been warming up here in Spain as well. We're in the middle of a heat wave, so things are hot both on and off the pitch in España.
How much should people, like, they came into the tournament as favourites, right? So how much should people really fear Spain as we hit the quarterfinal stages, even though it feels like they haven't hit their straps yet?
Well, that's the point. They haven't hit their top level yet, and here they are in the quarterfinals without having conceded a goal. I think there's been improvements all over the pitch throughout the different games. I think last night we saw an extraordinary performance from Rodri, which we hadn't seen before. I was one of the people saying this guy looks slow. He looks way off the pace. But yesterday, in the toughest game of the tournament so far, he absolutely controlled it and looked imperious. There are, Mikel Merino didn't play half the season for Arsenal, but the manager believed in him, said, I'm waiting for you. If I have to come and get you myself and carry you to the national team squad, I will take you. That's how important I think you're going to be. And he was. Pedri yesterday wasn't brilliant. We can see a lot more from Pedri. We can see a lot more from Lamine Yamal. I liked your stats. Here's another one. They've only conceded 5 shots on target in the whole tournament. So Unai Simon has kept 5 clean sheets, but he hasn't had to make too many saves. But I think this is a really, really strong team. And here's the thing, other sides are maybe being, if not carried, but led by brilliant individual performances, as we can see from the top goal scorer charts. Spain aren't necessarily relying on brilliant individual performances. They're a unit, they're a team, they're a squad. And if they play at their top level, which we haven't seen yet, I think they can beat anyone in the world.
In this game where there isn't really much separating between Spain and Portugal, the foul that happens, catching their midfield off guard as Bruno's still complaining to the official to score the goal. Again, it's the small margins here in these knockouts. It's going to prove to be the difference. And Spain is finding a way to, find the edge wherever they can.
And it was, 3 substitutes that were involved in that goal with Fabian Ruiz, Mikel Merino and Ferran Torres, who played a really brilliant assist. Three players really keen, really hungry to make an impact on the game. That's man management, that's squad management. 3 players not like, oh, I'm a sub. Don't really, I should be starting. What am I doing? No, 3 players super hungry, coming off the pitch, right? We're switched on, we're hungry. What can we do? What change can we impact on the game with? And we saw that. And Mikel Merino just, it's extraordinary that, here in Spain, when he got injured, we're like, well, that's it. There's no way he's making the World Cup. He can't. He's not gonna have played any football. You can't just take him to the World Cup. Luis de la Fuente thought otherwise. So yeah, I think it was actually quite telling that we saw those 3 substitutes involved in that goal yesterday.
All of that said, every tournament there seems to be a team that we're like, they're great, but they just got to get to their best. We've not seen their best yet. They'll be better when they're against good opposition. Hell, we've been doing this with England for 60 years, let alone for the last 3 or 4 weeks' time. Like, they will raise their game, they will raise their level. And every tournament there seems to be that team, and then there's the moment where they don't. Is there any part of you that is worried that they won't find the individual moment of brilliance they need from a Lamine Yamal or whoever it might be when they actually do need it against better opposition?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the difference between this and the Euros, in the Euros, Spain were just clearly the best team. They beat everyone. They beat a load of great teams, former champions. And we were like, well, yeah, Spain, worthy champions here. They've clearly been the best team throughout the whole tournament. I guess what's sort of actually, I think it's a positive for Spain is that they're getting through the rounds, getting the jobs done without necessarily being flying on all cylinders. They're missing players who haven't been at full fitness, but are still winning. So I think it's a positive that they're not at their best yet. Obviously, they will have to be at their best when get to the quarterfinals now. Quarterfinals of the World Cup, you don't really, you're running out of games to really hit top speed now. So you need to start producing, and let's see what happens against Belgium.
You gotta be feeling good though going up against Belgium. I know obviously they knocked us out, so I'm not discounting them whatsoever, but in terms of this pathway and kind of where things are going,
yeah,
you'd have to feel confident in terms of their chances against Belgium.
Yeah, listen, if someone said to you to get to a World Cup semi-final, you have to play in the knockout stages against Austria, Portugal and Belgium, you'd be like, yeah, okay, we'll take that. That seems doable. A lot of people in Spain were saying I'd rather play against Belgium than the US. questioning maybe home advantage on and off the pitch as well. So a lot of people were saying, you know what, I fancy Belgium over the USA. But Belgium obviously are a quality side. Let's see who comes up against Lamine Yamal and who manages to mark him, because Nuno Mendes did an extraordinary job until he had to go off. And it does feel like, the quarterfinals, this is the moment now. Lamine Yamal has to try and explode onto the tournament, because he hasn't done that yet. He started off, he wasn't fit, getting his fitness. He is now, he should be fully fit now, should be able to make an impact. It feels like he's desperate to make an impact as well, just because he's seen all the other big stars scoring, assisting, being really, really involved, and he's not quite there yet. So it feels like the quarterfinal, it's going to be a really, really big game for Lamine.
And his birthday coming up too on Monday, it's scoring a couple days.
Yeah, just before the semis. Yeah, it's going to be 19, a couple of days before the hypothetical semi-final. So, it's ridiculous. We talk a lot about him, world-class, elite, one of the best players in the world. He's still a teenager. There's another teenager in the starting 11, Pau Kubarsi, who's having an excellent tournament as well, just low-key brilliant and still a teenager as well. So really, really young players. This will serve them in good stead in terms of international experience going forward, but I don't think they're thinking about in 4 years' time on home soil. They're like, we want to be world champions this year.
Thank you for pronouncing it so much better than I did as well when I said it at the beginning. I said Kubasi. I gave it the full-on South London nonsense. I've got to agree with Master on this, actually. I think there is a real potential here from the Spain-Belgium game for it to end up just being a huge letdown game for Belgium. They poured so much into that performance yesterday. There clearly was so much motivation for them. They enjoyed themselves so much that suddenly they're going to come up against this brilliant Spain team, as you've been talking about, rather than this kind of where you can find the flaws and you're worried about the individual performances. I don't know. I think it's going to end up being a big letdown game. I'm not saying you're walking into the semi-finals, but this Spain team should at least get that far.
Yeah, that's the thing. Listen, I think quarterfinals, bare minimum. That's what people expected now. Going into the tournament, quarterfinals is bare minimum. Semi-finals is like historic. Spain haven't made the semi-finals of the World Cup many times in their history. So you make it into the semi-final, it's actually a great tournament. You make it to the final, it's amazing. You win it, it's unbelievable. So I think they're on the verge of doing something really, really great. And they will fancy their chances a lot against Belgium. They know probably what they're going to come up against. If Belgium leave them some spaces, they will exploit them. We saw the problems that Spain have had playing against really sort of low blocks that don't offer them space. But I think Spain have begun to figure out ways of getting through those kind of low blocks as well. So Spain are big favourites, but Belgium with a talented roster and are sort of outsiders, they'll probably actually be quite happy to be outsiders and think, we were up against it against USA in the last round and look what happened. Nobody thinks we're going to beat Spain, but we believe we can.
Some us versus them mentality. Phil, from you as always. Wonderful stuff. Great to get the Spanish perspective.
You,
keep enjoying
what's in the Rayo
tournament.
Polo on too.
Yeah.
Rayo still going strong, baby. Go on.
Haven't taken it off the last month. Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos. Wonderful stuff. I haven't had really your thoughts on this game yet, Master. This we just talked about Spain a lot there, but I kind of sounded off a bit on my feelings about Martinez and about Cristiano Ronaldo. I think you're right. Like, people will point to those two individuals, and there's a lot of other people who didn't turn up for this team. But what did you make overall by their performance last night?
Incredibly disappointed. I expect a lot from this Portugal side. I've been hyping them up the last year, talent-wise, roster-wise. I felt like this is a team that can make a deep run. And with the way that Spain was performing, the game was right there for them, for the taking. And nobody wanted to take advantage of that. Whether it was Roberto Martinez, whether it was Cristiano Ronaldo, whether it was Bruno Fernandes, whether it was Vitinha. They're big players, they're big stars, and their coach did not take advantage of that. The only one who did was Nuno Mendes, and he man-marked and has been able to put Lamine Yamal in his pocket, as we've seen last year in the Nations League final, and again yesterday, but unfortunately went out with an injury there in the second half. But beyond that, it just grossly disappointing from Portugal. I expected more. I thought they had the depth to make a deep run, and again, Cristiano Ronaldo is going to get his blame, and rightfully so. Roberto Martinez is going to get his blame, and rightfully so. But if you are not mentioning Bruno Fernandes and you are not mentioning Vitinha in your complaints and your arguments and your discussions for why Portugal did not advance against Spain and why they look so poor in this World Cup tournament, I'm sorry, you're clearly showing your bias, because they were incredibly useless in this tournament. The amount of back passes that Vitinha had in this tournament was downright just jaw-dropping in terms of how ineffective he was.
So different in terms of how dynamic he is for PSG. Like it's like watching a different player. And I've gone through years of watching this with England, where they've got these world-class players playing in the Premier League, and then they've turned up for England and not looked anything like it. And you could point out Paul Scholes and Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard and those players of the so-called golden generation. Vitinha looked a shadow of the player that we saw playing for PSG this season. It's astonishing.
It was so funny. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not, but
there was a brilliant moment there, Master, where your internet froze at just the wrong second, and the word ended up being funny. I didn't think it was going to end up being funny. I thought the internet had censored you, so I'm glad that we got that moment.
I was at USA Paraguay, and taking questions and stuff like that in terms of who's our guy from the Thunder that was at that match. I have not slept much. Who's our guy that got traded from the Thunder? From the Sixers, Thunder guard.
Where's Jared McCain?
Jared McCain, there we go.
Where's Gabs on the other side of the glass, just hanging us out to dry there? We've literally got a producer who hosts a basketball podcast, and he's sat there giving us absolutely nothing. Are you asleep in there? What is your problem?
I should know this. I have not slept much.
Rubbish.
Jared McCain.
Yeah, rubbish
Jared McCain,
indeed.
Watching the first half of USA Paraguay with Jared McCain, and he's asking, all these casual questions, which are great, things about sport, all this different stuff. He's just trying to understand more. So he turns to me and he asks me, so he's like, is Erling Haaland still one of the best players in the world? I said, yeah, he is. And there's 3 other people, who I will not name, who looked at me and just said, what? No, he's not one of the best. He fell off this, and this. And I was just like, okay, then. And they're like, Vitinha clearly is the best player. One of them said, Vitinha is clearly the best player in the world right now. I would love to have that conversation with that person. Just see what they think. Because there's no way on earth you're walking away from this tournament still having that same opinion. And again, this is coming from someone that has been a Vitinha stan. Last year, I went on air on another network vehemently defending him and saying he's better than Pedri. And thankfully, he has proven right for my efforts. However, he has been so poor in this tournament, and Erling Haaland has been so tremendous that I feel vindicated.
I've got to say, I'm not feeling as confident as Phil is that this team is just going to find a way, this Spain team, though. Like, as much as they have done, and defensively they have looked so solid. He mentioned Pedri has been really underwhelming so far. Rodri had a great game last night. What a moment between him and Bernardo Silva as well, where Silva missed that chance and he got right in his face and gave it some, and, the 2 former teammates started clashing on the pitch. Yeah, gotta love those narratives in football. There's a bit of me that goes, yeah, okay, they're brilliant defensively, but let's see what they do against France. Let's see what they do. If they get past them, let's see what they do in the final against.
I don't think their midfield's been good enough.
Yeah,
as much as everyone's talked about their midfield being great and being the best midfield potentially in the depth and stuff, their midfield just hasn't been good enough. And Pedri hasn't been good enough. Rodri's been hit or miss, as you mentioned yesterday. Played well, but I have not seen enough from this midfield to feel like they can, completely control it and dictate a game.
And they've been rotating in who the third guy is. Is it Olmo? Is it Gavi? Is it
exactly?
It doesn't feel
and
like
Gavi's giving you nothing.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely zero. So you know what? I'm not scared of Spain right now. That's what I'm saying.
Get through Norway first.
Right, we're going to get the Belgian perspective on last night coming up momentarily. Sacha Tavolieri joins the show. Yes, man. Sponsored by Calci.
Big name reaction from both sides of the pond.
The S word
from talkSPORT. people who love football in North America. And I mean the proper kind, where you only use your feet.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
I'm not going to rap. That would be very embarrassing. This is coming out because Jay-Z just announced, while we were in the break, that he's playing in London on the 10th of September. Between his LA dates and his Paris dates, he's coming and he's playing a show in London for the Jay-Z 30th anniversary tour.
What day?
No, sorry, he's playing in Paris on the 10th. He's playing in London the week before on the 4th, I want to say it is, of September. He's playing those 2 huge shows in New York later this weekend, in fact. We've decided that we might cancel the show on Thursday because pre-sale comes out at exactly 1 p.m. UK time, 8 a.m. Eastern. So you might be doing the top of the show on your own while me and producer Sam are just sat here trying to get on the ticket websites.
I've got nothing else going on now, so Champions League qualification is going on today, baby. I'm looking at this slate, buddy, and I got a lot of research to do.
Loads of people getting in touch still on the S Word YouTube channel powered by talkSPORT. If England goes out to Norway, says Machina Joe, the British tabloids are going to be as savage against the players as you've ever seen. Plus Tuchel, the German spy. I don't know. That Mexico win, I think, has probably brought him a huge amount of respect and revelry. And we saw the clip of him and John Stones pretending to have an injury in the dressing room, and then Thomas Tuchel dancing to the music, and the vibes feel too high for that.
Listening to another, as Declan Rice is probably controlling the touch tunes and the aux chord because that guy loves some house music.
Listen, I'm here for it. I'm here for the vibes that England are putting out right now. I'm ready for Miami. I'm ready. Mate, I'm ready for Norway this weekend. It's going to be the biggest clash between the Norwegians and the English since 1066. And unlike then, we're going to come out on top this time. Right, let's talk about... I don't know where that came from. Let's talk about Belgium.
Revenge game.
With this... a revenge game. 1,100 years in the making. That's how I'm going to sell it. God. Let's talk about the Belgian side of this performance against the US-17. Because obviously we've talked about the US-17 in huge detail. I'm delighted to say that joining us to round off today's show is the great Sacha Tavolieri. Sacha, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good.
Congratulations.
I can be better. To be very honest with you, I have a very good time right now.
Do you feel like there was a little extra motivation, that the Belgians turned up a little bit harder, played a little bit faster, got in those 50-50s just a little deeper because of what we saw over the 24 hours beforehand?
Yeah, indeed. I also were in talks with some players of the national team after that polemic with all that Balogun stuff, and they told me, guys, I think we haven't been so hardly motivated. It was crazy how they wanted to just eat the field and just show how good they were. So the motivation was amazing. And what's quite good is that we always have some extra kind of motivation outside, indeed, just the game. We had indeed this miracle against Senegal. Right now we had that polemic that is very showing to every player the will to see how good they were, and now we are facing Spain, so it's just only bonus. So it's kind of free time for Belgium. It's something like we don't have any pressure on the shoulders right now, so we feel like they are just having good time and enjoying what's going on. So that's great.
What a different sentiment than what we saw from the group stage, where we were questioning this Belgian side. They had obviously a very favorable group, and we're struggling to get results. And now they, in the final 10 minutes against Senegal, they figure it out. And against this USA side, they obviously destroyed us. Which, congratulations to you. It's in terms of the sentiment and the narrative of this being the twilight of this golden generation, how does that change now, making it to the quarterfinals?
But I think, once of all, this team has lived something like we are dead against Senegal, and then we are reborn from the extra time, and that's a key to understand how they act against US. They were so motivated to make the best of themselves. Just behalf and just beside that polemic, they were just going to play a team that is very not easy, but more convening to the Belgium national team. Open space, a team that is not going to reflect a lot, just play a lot of impact, a lot of intensity, and they are done for that kind of football. And that's also why I think they just made it perfectly, because you saw also that this Belgium was more mature, more experienced during the game, and they did all what they should have done during this group stage. But the fact to have been so fair against Senegal gave them a sort of relaxed situation. They were feeling like, okay, now the situation is on us, and we are going to show how we can create also the opportunities on our highlights, and also defend in the best way on moments where we are going to suffer. And that's, I think, the best key. They just used, and they work with the naivety of the Americans, and that's why they won.
We talked already on this show about a man you know incredibly well as a Belgian football fan in Roberto Martinez, and his decision with the Portuguese team to not change things, to not drop Ronaldo, the potential cowardice of that being what cost them at this stage of the tournament. Rudy Garcia last night says, these are the changes I made in Senegal. It won us the game. I'm not going to start Doku. I'm not going to start Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah, Yuri Tielemans starts in that role. And I think a lot of us were eyebrows raised about an hour before kickoff. And yet it all seemed to pay off. How much of a job did he do last night? And how impressed have you been with how he's managed to turn this team around in the space of the last 100 minutes or so?
I saw that now there is no status anymore in the Belgium national team. That means that you see that he can bench everybody. And I think that also gave an extra motivation to all the group, because they feel like if they are just performing well during the training or doing well during 10 or 20 minutes, everybody can have his chance. And that is very important. I don't see any other selection where you have currently a fight during the World Cup for the place. Here, everything is open. Everything is open. If I have also the feeling that if there is a tactic and also a good training of Jeremy Doku, he could be just in the first 11 against Spain, because he's playing also with that concurrence with all the players. And some players are maybe bad acting or not good receiving that kind of energy, and other ones are just getting it to be even better. Just see the performance of Dodi Lukebakio. He was the second player that makes the most dribble again during the World Cup, and I think nobody has done during a halftime of this World Cup so much dribbles for him. He was just there enjoying his time, saying, okay, I have nothing to lose right now, I'm going to show up. And that's what he did. And that's crazy, because when you see other personalities, stars of our team that were just trying to make always the same thing, same stuff, the stereotype of the game of Jeremy Doku can be something very interesting during a part of the game, but it can be also something very bad for us, because it just killed us, in terms of surprise, in terms of credibility, and so on. When you face a team that is factually just hoping that they will get the ball from one people. And that's the big difference between the match against Egypt and the match against US. Everything was open. All the spaces were open. And that's why we make the difference.
Just make it count, Sacha. Make it count. You beat the US. Just make it. I'm hearing all this and I'm having PTSD from the match last night. Make it count, okay? Don't take advantage of this situation. Take advantage of this moment and make it count against Spain. That's all I ask.
Thank you very much. But I was a bit surprised also by the performance of the US, because I was expecting some players to show more, and I was also just asking myself about the behavior of a player like Christian Pulisic. Did he was injured? Did it was a problem? I don't see him like in his natural position. I comment him a lot on Sky Sports Switzerland during this season in Serie A, and to be very honest, I've never seen him like this. He was not himself in the game.
Sacha.
Kudos to Belgium for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge kudos to Belgium in general. Wonderful stuff. So pleased for you. We'll have to talk to you around that Spain game. Coming up this Friday night, live, of course, on talkSPORT. Brilliant stuff for you. Thank you very much. Sacha Tavolieri joining us here on talkSPORT. Listen, that is the S word. We got through it, Master. It was always going to be
on that note.
It was always going to be a tough one for you. You know, I fit. We were talking about which shows we're taking off and everything the rest of this week, and you were like, "Sorry, you think I'm taking Sunday off after the England game, just on the off chance that we lose to Norway?" And all
Give me my row. Row. I'm all in, baby.
Enjoy Argentina against Egypt. Quick prediction.
Argentina 2-1. I think it'll be a fun one.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay. I'm hoping so. There are also some nice kickoff times today. Midday Eastern, a little early.
This is not
evening,
a fun kickoff
a little
time,
4 p.m. It's like, oh, it is for me.
Noon Eastern time is not a fun kickoff.
I'm going to be in bed by like 11, barring extra time and penalties. This is going to be the earliest I've been to bed in the whole tournament. I can't wait. Thank you so much for joining us. We're back 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow to react to those final 2 round of 16 games, to look to the quarterfinals as we get into the proper business end of the tournament. USMNT, we're sorry to lose you, but there's still plenty of football for us here on the S Word.
From the touchline to the terraces,
talkSPORT presents
the S Word.